This is part 2 of a special edition of the Prophetic Eye covering the recent bank failures. We highly suggest you watch part 1 before watching this episode. Please check the description below for part 1 of this series. What are CBDCs, and should you be worried about them? And did the prophet Daniel actually see what's taking place today in our financial system? Find out today on the Prophetic Eye. Welcome back to this mini-series of the Prophetic Eye, as we're discussing the recent bank failures and consolidations that are taking place. In the last episode, we talked about how the powers that be are responding to the crisis and how it relates to the fulfillment of Revelation 13. When we closed the last installment, we did so with this statement, and it's going to be the foundation of what we look at today, namely CBDCs. It says, those who hold the reins of government are not able to solve the problems of moral corruption, poverty, pauperism, and increasing crime. They are struggling in vain to place business operations on a more secure basis. And that right there is what we need to understand. They are struggling in vain to place business operations on a more secure basis. In essence, the claim is being made that what we are dealing with is a house of cards. And this house of cards is the current financial system that is not founded on anything solid. This is how banks can collapse seemingly overnight. So, what are those who hold the reins of government trying to do to secure business operations? Well, let me introduce you to something named CBDCs, which stands for Central Bank Digital Currencies. If you don't know what that is, then you need to find out, and you need to become very familiar with it, because this is what is being discussed as the solution to secure the economic future of America and the world. A central bank digital currency, also called digital fiat currency or digital base money, is a digital currency issued by a central bank rather than by a commercial bank. Basically, in this type of system, the commercial banks like Wells Fargo and Citibank are sort of cut out of the middle, not completely, but to a certain extent. And people that need money get the money directly from the central banks that print the money. However, this is something different because we're not talking about paper money anymore. It's all digital. And as men's hearts are failing them for fear at the thought of losing their money above $250,000, here comes the cavalry to suggest a system in which there is supposedly no risk for people to lose their money. Don't forget that the Bible teaches that all of this will ultimately fail. The major question that we need to answer, of course, is how is this going to relate to you and I? What is the prophetic significance of this? To answer that question, let's take a quick trip to the website for the Federal Reserve, which is the central bank of the United States. As you can see on the website, their job is to provide the nation with a safe, flexible, and stable monetary and financial system. And this is what they have to say about CBDCs as the solution to our problems. While the Federal Reserve has made no decision on whether to pursue or implement a central bank digital currency or CBDC, we have been exploring the potential benefits and risks of CBDCs from a variety of angles, including through technological research and experimentation. Our key focus is on whether and how a CBDC could improve on an already safe and efficient U.S. domestic payments system. And there it is again, safe and efficient, or some might say safe and effective. The thought is that moving to a digital form of money would be able to alleviate the fears of the masses by stabilizing the financial system, and it would enable the general public to make digital payments, so no more paper, and hence no more privacy. But here's the thing, people will have to buy in, pun intended. People would have to be willing to exchange privacy for promised stability. And what is this stability that's being promised? I'll let the Federal Reserve explain. As a liability of the Federal Reserve, a CBDC would be the safest digital asset available to the general public, with no associated credit or liquidity risk. If you didn't catch it, let me explain. In essence, they would ensure that all of your money is covered, not just $250,000, because they're the ones that print the money. So, if there's a run on the bank again, they can just print more money. But it's not printing money anymore. No, it would be digital, so they can just enter more money in the computer. Very safe and very efficient. This will be very tempting for people, especially for those with the most money to lose. And many will clamor for a system like this. It's also important to note that there are other forms of digital currency in use today, like Bitcoin and Ethereum, and other forms of digital currency. So, people are already used to the idea of this kind of money. But to quote the January 2022 discovery on Centralized Digital Currency, these kinds of digital currency, like Bitcoin and Ethereum, are volatile and decentralized. And decentralized means less control. And if you know anything about Revelation 13, then you know that it's all about having control. And so this is what is being discussed. It's an image from the report for research and analysis for money and payment, the US dollar in the age of digital transformation. Download the report and see it for yourself. It proposes a digital infrastructure with centralized banks in the center, where a centralized entity acts as the gatekeeper for all monetary transactions, or, in other words, the gatekeepers for all buying and selling. Some of their goals for this system is to promote consumer privacy, have broad support from key stakeholders, and to protect against criminal activity. Question: who are the stakeholders? And who gets to determine who the so-called criminals are? These are questions that are directly related to the prophecies in Daniel and Revelation, as Daniel 11 discusses a situation regarding an entity known as the King of the North that will eventually be given power over the treasures of gold and of silver and over all the precious things. This prophecy, in essence, is pointing to a time that will see the complete centralization and control of money and finances, and it will be this control that will be used to prevent men and women from buying and selling. According to this article from November 15th, 2022, the Federal Reserve is already working with major stakeholders like Wells Fargo and MasterCard to test a system like this, as they ran a 12-week digital dollar system to serve as a proof of concept for this type of currency. When you add all of this to the prophecy in Revelation 17 that states that the nations of the earth will be of one mind, which means that all the major stakeholders will be united, then you have a recipe for prophetic fulfillment that has the potential to convince even the staunchest atheist regarding the accuracy of God's word. And that's really what this is all about. It's about the prophetic accuracy of the Bible. It's about the words of Jesus from the book of John that states, "Now I tell you before it comes, that when it comes to pass, you may believe that I am He," or in other words, that you will believe in God. A God who exists outside of time. A God who exists simultaneously in the past, the present, and the future, that is able to give us evidence of His divinity by telling us hundreds and thousands of years in advance that there will indeed be a centralized system that emerges at the end of time to take control of the gold, the silver, and the precious things representing money and finances. And this control will be used to prevent people from buying and selling if they don't receive the mark of the beast. And that time is getting near. I don't know exactly when. I don't know exactly how, but I do know that it will happen. And when it does, I want my investment to be in the kingdom of heaven, where according to Christ, the returns are 100-fold. The moth and rust don't corrupt, and there will be no thieves to steal. It's not a coincidence that Christ uses financial language to communicate the realities of His kingdom to us. It's no coincidence that James states that the rich men will eventually howl and weep over their lost riches. It's not a coincidence that the prophet Ezekiel said that when Jesus returns, that the wicked will throw their silver into the streets, and their gold will be like refuse. Their silver and their gold will not be able to deliver them in the day of the wrath of the Lord. They will not satisfy their souls, nor fill their stomachs, because it became their stumbling block of iniquity. Financial language from Jesus, James, and Ezekiel to meet the anxiety of a time with financial instability. Don't allow money and riches to become a stumbling block to you. The kingdom of heaven is at hand, and it's time to invest in God's kingdom and not place our confidence in money, whether it be paper or digital. The choice is mine today. The choice is yours today. But as for me and my house, we will invest in the kingdom of heaven, and I hope you will too. If you've been blessed by these or our other messages, then please share them with others. And if you're looking to understand the prophecies of Daniel 11 in more detail, then subscribe and look out for our series, Daniel 11 and 7, where we will make clear the prophecies of the last 6 verses of this chapter. God bless, and please remember to keep the prophetic eye. Hope to see you again soon.